we engage in contention one is the rise of the corporate state. Currently, the Huffington Post in 2017 finds that Catalonia is deprivatizing their water infrastructure, with 14 cities in Catalonia reclaiming water infrastructure back from corporations. This is because the TNI reports there's a movement across Spain to make water services public for all citizens, with several cities involved in a collaborative effort to reclaim infrastructure back from private corporations. However, with control over its own infrastructure, an independent Catalonia would work to privatize water infrastructure. Favor of the Nation in 2017 finds that politically, Catalonia is focused on a neoliberal economic agenda of privatizing public services. This would reverse the trend of public services. Because corporate control privatizes profits, the impact is cutting access to the poor. The TNI quantifies that when Catalonia had privatized water infrastructure in 2014, 120,000 Catalans were deprived of running water. Contention 2 is a Spanish recession. Petrov of CNN in 2017 explains that granting Catalonia independence would significantly impact the Spanish economy at a time where currently Spain is slowly emerging from a deep economic crisis. This slow recovery is why Pritchard of the Telegraph in 2017 further said today, Spain has no cushion against another downturn. Unfortunately, there are 3 important reasons why Catalan independence means a deep recession for Spain. First is the border effect. Carter of Princeton University in 2018 explains that because borders create 2 different spheres of economic policy in the 2 new countries, the drawing of borders disrupts local economic networks and trade flows. In fact, Novi of the University of Warwick in 2016 quantifies that even though there are no tariffs between EU countries, domestic trade within the average EU country is about 10 times larger than trade with another EU country. This applies to Spain, as Morado of the UPF writes in 2016 that even with a full free trade agreement, the mere creation of an international border dividing Spain and Catalonia would decrease trade by 80%. Second is a loss of tax revenue. Reuters in 2017 finds that Catalan taxes contribute $16 billion to the Spanish government, or 13% of Spain's annual spending. Getty of Reuters continues that in 2017 that independence would double the Spanish budget deficit to 7% per year, levels not seen in the Eurozone since the recession of 2009. As a result, Tornielli writes for Yale in 2014 that after Catalan independence, the Spanish government would lose much of its ability to prop up other regions of Spain that had fallen into deep economic distress. Parrish of Leicester University in 2017 puts it simply when he says that Madrid would go bankrupt without Catalan taxes. Third is exports. Chislett of Royal Institute in 2013 finds that Spain was able to recover from the 2008 recession because of a structural adjustment that made exports the engine driving their economy. However, Catalonia is the key to Spanish exports, as Hadasova of CNN in 2017 quantifies that 1/3 of Spain's exporting companies are now in the Catalan city of Barcelona alone. Post-independence, Spain will be unable to profit from these companies entirely. Additionally, Tornielli of Yale finds that Catalan ports handle 70% of exports from the rest of Spain, and with independence, the cost of moving goods would increase, further weakening the Spanish economy. Thus, Wagner of the University of Virginia in 2014 concludes that a main risk factor that could cause Spain to re-enter recession would be Catalan independence, given its value to export-led recovery. The impact cannot be understated. Tubau of Global Politics in 2017 writes that Catalan independence would present an insurmountable challenge to Spain's economy, and even in the best scenario of a negotiated transition to independence, Ubede of the Peterson Institute in 2015 finds that Spain would lose up to a decade of economic expansion. Lago of the EOI in 2016 quantifies that in the most recent recession, unemployment tripled in Spain, and Spanish households lost the equivalent of 10 years of economic progress, many at risk of poverty. Even worse, Foster of King's College London argues in 2017 that independence will trigger a financial crisis in Spain that could rapidly spread through Europe, this time without enough money for a bailout from the EU. For these reasons, we negate.
We affirm, contention 1 is refugee. The refugee crisis has been the largest global problem for the past 3 years, and Spain has been complicit in the chaos. Verse 17 of the NBPI quantifies that Spain has only accepted 4% of its share of 17,000 refugees. leading the UGT-16 to conclude that at the current rate, it will take Spain 600 years to fulfill its refugee quota. Hoffman 16 of Vice News finds that Spain's inaction prevents regions who want to help, like Catalonia, from doing so, as only the Spanish federal government can authorize refugee intake. Failing to act is not an option, as Malmstrom of the European Commission warns that because refugee camps are underfunded and located in conflict zones, resettlement is a matter of life or death. Fortunately, an independent Catalonia would give thousands new opportunities. Catalonia has declared that if given independence, they would accept substantially more refugees than Spain. Already, Verifauca 17 of Stockholm University reports that Catalonia has built housing facilities for 15,000 refugees, but Spain has denied them entry. Condition 2 is preventing perpetual conflict. As Alexander 17 of the Telegraph recounts, Catalonia was once an independent country with its own language, laws, and customs. However, since its forced annexation by Spain in the 15th century, Catalans have fought numerous wars of secession, killing millions. Unfortunately, Minder of the New York Times reported last week that while Catalonia's aspirations for independence have ebbed and flowed for generations, current deadlock between Spain and Catalonia has reached a breaking point that risks indefinite conflict. He confirms that unbreakable polarization guarantees a long-term conflict in which a new round of turmoil seems certain. Fox 17 of Financial Times reports that radicals fiercely pushing for independence are replacing moderates in the movement, ensuring the fight continues. The Catalans will become more radical over time, as Gonzalez 17 of Foreign Policy warns that support for independence is strongest among youth, ensuring the movement will continue to gain traction. 4017 of Jacob and Magazine explains that neither pro-independence party will slow its efforts, as both parties attempt to outdo the other in order to avoid losing ground. Dykoff 16 of Paris University concludes that even if secessionist leaders claim to support reform, that their end goal has always been the hidden agenda of full independence. Thus, Balfour 17 of Foreign Policy warns that no form of mediation will bridge the divide between Catalonia and Spain. Near 17 of NYU writes that self-determination is unstoppable, and no power can indefinitely prevent any group from eventually gaining independence, regardless of how difficult it might be or how long it takes. For these reasons, Paris 17 of Leicester University explains that the Catalan crisis is more likely than not to spark civil war and widespread death. This would not be the first war Catalonia fights for independence, nor will it be the last. Gary 17 of the Oriental Review writes that Catalonia is a frozen conflict, a phenomenon which William 16 of American University explains is the result of deep cultural differences that persist for centuries despite numerous attempts at reform. Paul 10 of Newsweek explains that frozen conflict cycles through decade-long periods of peace followed by inevitable war, preventing political victories from translating to real stability. Williams confirms that the effort to maintain current borders as a means to prevent self-determination creates a dynamic where parties are encouraged to fight their way to independence. Affirming provides a unique opportunity to end the perpetual conflict in two ways. First, an amicable divorce. Castells 13 of the University of Barcelona explains that outcomes differ when independence is achieved amicably compared to unilateral secession. He confirms that a bilateral split is key to guaranteeing political and economic stability. As Betancourt 13 of Georgetown University explains, an amicable divorce resulting from Spain's acceptance of independence would lead to a peaceful resolution and negotiation of all outstanding issues. Second, an unbreakable promise. Tier 06 of UC Boulder explains that while agreements may create short-term peace, down the line, the preferences of one or both parties change to the point where agreements can be ripped up at a moment's notice, causing conflict to reignite. Only a permanent solution guarantees peace. As Tier concludes that peacefully agreed upon borders are rarely fought over. Overall, Williams warns that unaddressed self-determination movements create unending conflicts with massive death tolls that destabilize entire regions by creating war economies and terrorist safe havens, catalyzing regional warfare as a whole. For all these reasons, be aside.
So your second contention is about war, right?
Well, violent conflict in general.
Yeah, so how can Catalonia fight a war without a military?
Okay, so a lot of secessionist movements don't have a military the minute they begin to ramp up.
So
for example, the U.S. Revolution. When?
Yeah.
Imminently, I can't give you a day or a month.
How are they going to get a military?
They don't necessarily need a military. They can run.
So how do you fight a war without a military?
Okay. They can engage in guerrilla warfare, they can do terrorism. It doesn't necessarily have to be a war. What we're talking about is violent conflict. And again, they didn't have a war in the 20th century the last time they fought the same mission.
So,
Can I get a question?
Yeah.
Okay. So you talk about the border effects between Catalonia and Spain. The problem is that your Marauder card is...
What's your question?
I'll get there, I promise. The problem is that the Marauder card is comparing Spain to Portugal. However, in Catalonia, isn't all the infrastructure already set up and all the businesses are already trading across the border? So why is that an appropriate comparison?
Because it's on an international border. The Morado evidence is about Portugal. but it
Yes.
says that Portugal is like specifically representative
Yeah.
of Catalonia too. And the
No,
war
but
behind that is
Catalonia
really
has a
clear.
serious,
Can I
like
explain the war?
you yourself tell me Catalonia
No.
has a seriously export-dependent economy. They rely on
Sorry.
trade a lot more, and they're more
Okay,
important
so
Spanish
let
trade.
me explain.
Yeah.
What the Murado evidence specifically says is that like Portugal and Spain, like Portugal is a really big trade partner of Spain, and there's
Yeah.
a border. Like even with the border and even with free
Yes.
trade, there's an 80% decrease in trade. And he tells me
Right.
that Catalonia would be the same exact thing because A, like they're both export-led economies,
Right, but
Catalonia
here's
and
the
Portugal,
problem.
and B, they're both big trade partners
But
with
here's the
Spain.
big problem with that, is that Catalonia and Spain already have all this trade infrastructure set
Yeah,
up.
and it would change.
So it would change?
Yeah.
They're all of a sudden just gonna stop trading with each other, even if it's
That's what a
mutually
decrease
beneficial.
means. That's what a decrease means.
Even if it's mutually beneficial, they're just gonna stop, even if
We
there's.
tell you that there's a more beneficial option for Catalan businesses because they can trade within their own country.
Okay.
So back to your
Even
second
though-
contention about war.
Yeah.
So when was the last like war of Catalonia?
Early 20th century.
So like 19 what? Or like
I think it's
what
the
decade?
30s, does
So-
it matter?
So that was, are you talking about the Civil War?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Civil War.
Oh, that's a completely different thing. That was
I
about
thought
Catalan
you might say
independence.
that. So they fought 5 other wars about secession.
When were the other ones? In like the
They were all in
1500s?
the past 300 years.
So in the past 300
But that
years.
doesn't really
So
matter.
let's go
Okay,
back.
what
Okay.
matters here is that
Isabel,
Catalonia.
let me speak please.
Tell me.
Okay, Izzy, let me speak please. So let's go back 300 years. The last time there was a
Sure.
war, did Spain have a huge military like it has right now?
I assume they had a different type of military because it was 300 years ago. But you're not
So right
actually
now-
addressing the
so
war.
right now,
That's
I
what
am
I'm
addressing-
saying.
I'm
No, you
addressing-
haven't said the
so
word
it's-
frozen conflict. That's the warrant.
Yeah, I gotta do that and then I'm good.
Well, if you want to address the warrant, yeah, you
Frozen
do have to do that.
There it is.
Oh, that's obviously exactly what I was talking about. Thank you.
So how are they gonna fight a war that they know they're gonna lose?
Okay, so you're saying countries never go to war if they think the other side is stronger? That just flies in the face of history.
I mean, I would argue that like,
Seriously?
if
That's
it's
what you're
Catalonia,
arguing?
if it's Catalonia, which does not have a military,
You're totally ignoring
or
all
Spain,
of our
who's like a
actual
top 20
evidence.
military in the world, then they're obviously not gonna just
Here's
go
the
at
problem.
it.
You're ignoring our actual evidence, saying
I'm
that
saying the
right
evidence
now,
is wrong.
saying that right now moderates are being replaced with radicals who are willing to go to war.
Right.
You're just giving me your own analysis here.
So
and
does
that's
it-
time actually. Actually, no.
Let's start with the first contention on refugees. The first issue with this argument is Spain is trying to take in refugees in the status quo. What Bendito 17 explained is that earlier Spain, yes, was unprepared to take in refugees, but there made reforms to try and solve the problem. That's why the UN in 2017 in December found that there was a 144% increase in sea arrivals to Spain. And that's really important because Spain is trying to do its best to solve the refugee crisis. You jeopardize this in 2 ways if you vote affirmative. The first is you lose a political pressure from Barcelona that they talk so heavily about. At the moment, Barcelona and Madrid are probably the only regions fighting for refugees. That loses any incentive for Spain to ever fulfill its quota. But second, according to Musak in 2017, there would be an increase in Spanish nationalism as they try to consolidate their borders in their world. So at the end of the day, they're not taking in more refugees. But the second issue with this argument is they say Catalonia will accept refugees. But this isn't true for 3 reasons. The first is that any new nation focuses internally first. They have to build new state structures, new financial institutions, new political institutions. They don't prove that refugees is the top of the line idea at the point where every single new country has so many other things to do. And second, according to Kapura of the Telegraph, in 2017, due to the immediate economic uncertainty, even if it's get better in the long term, there's going to be an increase in closed borders. They're going to consolidate their own country and try to benefit their own workers first. At that point, there's no impact here. But third, Levitt in 2015 explains that it's going to take Catalonia 10 to 15 years to develop an intelligence framework, even working with Spain and the EU, and no country in history has accepted refugees without vetting them and having any intelligence on them first. So at that point, refugees is not a reason to affirm. Let's go to their second contention, which talks about a cycle of conflict. So the first issue with this argument, when they talk about violence and wars in the past, comes from the Associated Press in 2017 that explained that Spain learned its lesson from the issues in the October referendum. That's why they're pulling out troops in the status quo, and they're fundamentally changing their approach. They know that militarism is not the solution, and at that point their whole case falls because there's no cyclical conflict because the approach is changing. That's why overall, what you've seen over the past couple of months is Spain's government has agreed to study constitutional reform, study fiscal autonomy reform, and give Catalonia the negotiation that it wants. At that point, there's no impact. impact here. But second, they say there's a deadlock and it's going to reach a breaking point. But no, in late December of 2017, which Puigdemont and the Catalan government and Spain and Rajoy called for negotiations and dialogue. At the point where that's true, there is no deadlock. Their argument is simply outdated. But then they say that they're replacing moderates with radicals in Catalonia. This could not be far further from the truth, because the foreign policy in 2017 explains that the two biggest separatist parties in Catalan parliament today actually favor negotiations and ran on a party platform of saving negotiations with Madrid, not independence. That means that this argument is fundamentally not true. Then they say it's strongest among youth. Obviously, opinions can change. If negotiations are successful, you have a risk of being successful. You're going to see that the problem can be solved. But then they say that the end goal is independence. But this isn't true, because the BMI research group explains that there's only a 15% chance of independence in our world. Rather, the better solution is negotiations, and the more likely solution is negotiations, because every single party has an incentive to negotiate, because no one wants to break up, because we tell you that's so bad. But then we tell you that they say there's going to be civil war and death again. But this is not true, because Oxo in 2017 explains that Catalonia has no military. They would have no way of firing back against the Spanish military, not today, not even in the future, which they're trying to get their impacts from. They have no probability or time frame from this argument at all. But second, it's also going to destroy the legitimacy of the Catalan independence movement, right? They're all about peace. They're all about, please recognize us. We'll be a good country in the future. Fighting a war and starting a war with Spain doesn't do that. We also tell you that Spain also has no incentive to start a war, because they look awful in the global community. They say there's deep differences that can't be solved by reform because of the frozen conflict, but that's not true. If you look at different circumstances like the Basque region, they have different differences. They figured it out with negotiations. They don't tell us why this situation is so culturally unique. But let's go to their first thing, where they talk about an amicable divorce. Betancourt in 2017 explains that there's only a 1 in 20 chance of an amicable divorce between Spain and Catalonia, because the Rajoy government has such an anti-independent face. So he's not just going to give Catalonia everything he needs. He's going to look at negotiation first, not giving that away. But second, Stoddard 17 explains that the leaders in Catalonia have said, we're not going to unilaterally secede. We're going to push for it only if Madrid agrees to it. At that point, there's no unilateral secession. Lastly, they say there's going to be war, but Swarovski 09 explains that secession movements often end up in conflict after they're independent, because that's when they get a military, and that's when ethnic divisions grow.
Catalonia is catastrophic, affecting nearly 84% of the population. However, in order to solve the issue with privatization, only a person can spend a healthy amount of government spending, which is empirically happening in Catalonia. Share 70 reports that Spain has reduced the amount of infrastructure spending in Catalonia by 50%. Independence, on the other hand, means Catalonia gets rid of all of its own tax revenue, which adds in all concludes to allow Catalonia to choose the infrastructure projects they want to invest in. To solve the issue of privatization, as Wikipedia 14 finds, the only reason Catalonia water is private in the first place is because they did not want to rely on funding from Spain, and that with independence, Catalonia would regain control over water management. Then on Spanish economy, the status quo is unsustainable for 4 reasons. First is policy paralysis. AFP writes that the Catalan crisis is amplifying divisions between the multiple political parties in the Spanish government, reducing the ability to pass legislation paralyzing politics in Spain. Unfortunately, the horrifying for political stability in Spain is key to economic reform, to the overall health of the economy going forward. Thus, evidence of the Telegraph warns that the continuing political instability resulting from the Catalan crisis risks collapsing Spain's government coalition and sending the country into a deep recession, has no economic stabilization measures to be passed. Luckily, settling the independence issue will end this policy paralysis. Second is the aging workforce. Spain, where the Age of Times finds that Spain's population is aging so fast that the cost of supporting the elderly will break the national budget, leading to conclude that Spain will implode within 20 years and that Catalonia should leave now to avoid inevitable destruction. The implications are A, not only will Catalonia's economy be inevitably harmed, but they will succeed in the face of crisis, meaning all the negative impacts get triggered in 20 years, and B, negating June's Catalonia to be going down with Spain, but affirming gives them a chance to get out while there's still time to reduce their dependency. Third is austerity measures. Faber writes that the question of Catalonia allows Spain's ruling conservative party to appeal to Spanish nationalists who turn out to vote in large numbers only because of the Catalan crisis. Thus, the economists conclude that the sole reason conservatives win elections today is because of their explicit anti-independence platform. However, granted independence means that conservatives can no longer leverage this political crisis to whip up votes and maintain control. This is incredibly important, as Paula writes that these conservatives support draconian austerity policies that decimate social spending and increase poverty. In fact, the Center for Economic and Social Rights finds that because of these policies, 13 million people are in poverty and a quarter of all children risk malnutrition. Weigh this in 2 ways. First, these austerity measures link into our C2. Marisdale finds that Spanish austerity measures are pushing Catalans towards independence as residents are hurt by tax increases. And second, these austerity measures outweigh all my opponent's economic harms on scope because they threw 13 million people into poverty, a number which is almost 70% larger than the entirety of Catalonia. Fourth is EU collapse. Betancourt Georgetown University finds that the EU's inflexibility and determination has been centralizing consolidating nations and cultures without regard to regional diversity will cause this inevitable destruction. The only present solution is granting Catalonia independence. Bard caucus of the University of Athens finds that Catalan independence is a golden opportunity to recharacterize the EU's mission to become one that is more flexible and open to regional diversity. By giving Catalonia what it is asking for, the EU will signal to populist and regional movements that the EU's outdated conception of sovereignty has evolved, mitigating collapse. If the entire EU collapses, that outweighs their entire argument. A factor of 28, you vote out on a risk of solvency. Then on the border effects, two responses. First chart, asking all the University of London finds that independence helps Spain because in order to follow other independence movements that would trigger economic development and modernization across the other Spanish municipalities. Second, partnership solves. Paluzzi finds that if Catalonia remained within the Eurozone and maintained relatively free trade with Spain, there would not be a substantial toll on either economy. Recognize that and then on tax revenue. Recognize that although Catalonia represents 20% of Spain's GDP, it's also 18% of its population. In this sense, the amount of people they have to take care of is proportional, so there's no loss. Then on exports, a massive turn. Catalog 15 of Noya University explains that Catalonia's major ports of Barcelona and Tarragona are underutilized and underdeveloped. Critically, these ports are dual use, meaning they can facilitate private and military traffic without trade-offs. Unfortunately, Spain will not invest in these ports, as he finds that the conflict is preventing Spain from investing in the connecting infrastructure for these ports to be utilized effectively. This is problematic as it facilitates Russian aggression. Line 15 of the Army War College observes that a weak NATO presence in the Mediterranean has created a strategic pathway for Russia to fill and promote more instability. Fisher 15 warns that this aggression risks miscalculation in war. The risk is higher than ever as A, infrastructure designed to prevent regional miscalculation is gone, and B, Russia is more assertive and unpredictable than ever before. Thus, Fisher concludes that this situation is more dangerous than the Cold War. Fortunately, Catalonia writes that more developed ports that are an independent Catalonia would also cut costs for NATO partners to moor their naval fleets in the Mediterranean, increasing the alliance's presence and distribution of resources across the region, allowing for a faster response time. This is key, as War 16 of Johns Hopkins University writes that in order to deter Russian aggression, NATO must increase its response time and durability by leveraging its allies to build a new regional architecture. This outweighs the entirety of their case. Then go to their rebuttal, they make a couple of responses. First, they say the negotiations are going to happen. Radicalization 16 of the University of Paris explains the negotiations just tantalize the leaders, making them want secession more. Then they tell you that from Siraki, that secession or the independence is a bad thing. Then the reason he doesn't read the card verbatim because it says that this conflict only happens with secession, not when you grant independence. Yeah.
So on exports, you read this big term about how like Russia's going off the military.
Right.
So what are they doing?
So right now, Russia is conducting really, really aggressive military exercises because they know that NATO's response time is so poor. By the time NATO gets there, they can be done with them.
Wait, so your argument here is they can have more like boats sailing around.
No,
and NATO's like,
it's
oh,
not about
stop it.
No, it's not about an increasing amount of boats. It's about a decrease in the response time. The blank evidence
why
is
does
very
the response time matter?
Why does the response time matter? Because the evidence indicates that the high response time is A, facilitating, and B, encouraging Russian aggression, which
What
risks
does that mean? What does that mean?
Okay, let me give you an example.
Here,
You want to give you an example of Russian aggression?
Really quickly. Your impact here is like the response time will go down by a couple of hours. So NATO can't like watch like Russia do their exercise.
No, so they can do it. And
So they
let me
can.
like contextualize this with a historical example. Last year, Russia was engaging in military exercises. They almost ran into a boat, and it almost started like a war. It's a really big deal in the news a while
Wait,
back.
okay, so
what our evidence from
what boat were they gonna run into that would start this?
it was a Swedish trading vessel. I can pull up the card.
So if Russia accidentally
I
ran
think it would be
into
more
a trading vessel, that
productive for me to
doesn't
use
mean
cross to explain the turn than you just like asking a bunch of questions.
No, because like I'm asking questions for you to explain it. And
Right.
You're not giving us.
But like you're not asking the questions that I think are gonna make it a lot more clear.
Well, I'm asking the questions as to why this matters, and you're just saying like, oh, like last year they almost ran into Sweden's boat.
Here's
That's
what's
not
really
a big
important.
turn at all.
It is a big turn, right? The reason why is that Russia knows that they can conduct these really aggressive exercises, and by the time they're done with them, NATO won't even be there yet.
So
blank evidence indicates that if NATO were there, Russia would be too scared of accidentally bumping into like a NATO vessel to conduct these operations.
So what is the benefit of them not doing some of these operations?
The benefit is Russia is no longer in our world conducting exercises that every day risk war.
Every day. So they've been doing it for 20 years and they're happy.
I know it's like a new board case turn, it's like a big deal. Can I please ask one question? It's been 2 minutes a day. Alright. Your benchmark evidence says there's a 1 in 20 chance of an amicable divorce.
Yeah.
That's analyzing the status quo, right?
I mean, what else is supposed to analyze?
Right, so it's not, right, because the resolution is like, probably not gonna happen in the status quo. It's not saying if we grant Catalonia's independence,
That's not
there's a 1 in 20
true, right? There could always
I mean,
be like
it is
a
necessarily
project
true.
negotiation.
Cindy, let's like not misrepresent evidence. You know that your card says that in the status quo, there's a 1 in 20 chance of the resolve being passed. If we affirm, we go around that, right?
You said that probably not going to get passed in the status quo, so I said it could get passed in the status quo. I'm not.
Well, that's what fiat does for the act. I'm just making sure that you're not going to use this bench court analysis to be like, oh, there's a 1 in 20 probability of like an amicable divorce.
No, I'm saying that in the status quo, there's probably not going to be an amicable divorce.
Yeah, that's
because
probably
the
why
lawyer's
it's-
really mad.
Yeah.
All these, so he's not going to be like, oh, let's work together to do that.
I mean, like, the idea is like, that's why this is a debate topic. Like, the plan's not gonna get passed in the status quo, that's why we use
I would
fiat
say
to
that's-
affirm,
that's
Spain grants it to
abusive
them.
use of fiat.
It's more abusive to say that the plan necessitates backlash.
It's gonna be hard, so I can weighing. Gives four responses to the argument versus a political paralysis. Not true in the status quo, they roll over the budget, they're passing things in the status quo. That's why important to reduce an increase in investment. They're like, it's not paralyzed in the status quo, it's not a true argument. But then the second part of Asian workforce. The problem with this is that every country in the world has an Asian workforce. It's not actually an impactful argument. There's no implication. But then the third is they're going to be more nationalist. The problem with this, they can still use Catalonia as a scapegoat even after they secede. They can say that's the reason why they're problems. That's why the right wing gets elected. Even if they're gone, they can still like scapegoat them. But second of all, they talk about austerity. We argue that we control the linkage to austerity because if the economy gets better, they're obviously going to have to pass less like debt policies because they have less debt. If we prove the Spain's economy goes down, there's more austerity in their world. And the fourth, the EU is going to collapse. There's no probability of this argument, number one. But second of all, we argue that like the argument gets magnified in their world because you turn it because like it inspires more movements, the EU gets more collapse in their world. That's really important. At that point, he reads one turn on the border effect, which tells you they're going to modernize. We argue that there's no other region that could modernize in Spain because every other region other than Catalonia and Madrid is really, really poor. But then go down to our third note, think about export. He gives two responses. First of all, he says that the ports are like underused and Catalonia will lose them. First of all, that might be true, but even if Catalonia uses them more, Spain has no access to the profits to get off of that. That's really important because even if they're used more by Catalonia, Spain still has no profits because 34% of their companies that are doing the exports are in Catalonia, 70% of goods go through Catalonia. That's really important. The response doesn't matter. But then the second thing is concerned about Russia. We argue that Russia has like no incentive to start a war. And then tell you why these exercises are specifically bad. We argue that NATO's doing a fine job. There's no real impact here. The way here is really important because Wagner tells you that like the lack of exports will push them back to recession. And even if you buy their case that secession is inevitable, you still vote for us because doing it right now is a really bad idea. Because right now they're crawling out of recession. Like if you buy their argument, you still vote for us. But then go to their case. Remember the narrative that it's getting like the problem's getting solved in status quo because both sides are open to negotiations and they're pulling out troops. There's no real magnification here. But then their impacts about like an amicable divorce. We tell you that the leaders say that they won't unilaterally secede. The only possible solution is a bilateral secession. For these reasons.
Hold his hand.
Wow. I can beat you at 8 ball. Dude, your hands are way too sweaty. I don't feel comfortable.
Wait, just to clarify, you're looking for evidence, right?
I'm just waiting for a call.
Cool. I just want to make sure
Yeah,
that's what's going on.
What is he asking?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's wait for the second one, and then we'll put it together.
Yeah, be precise about what is prepped and what is not.
Yeah. No, it's prepping right now, and one of the 2 cards we have to work. Wait a second.
Is that highlighted?
Just make sure it's a flash.
You just up, bro.
Like,
Here.
Okay, good. Taking a long time. Okay. This needs to be done by the time we get back. Thirsty.
Steam's so hard without science class. We're like Ooh, you're playing the hard version?
It's the only version. Bro, try playing Tetris without the ability to like swap pieces. It's really hard.
Bro, do you have to make an account for this? You have to make a fucking account to play.
You don't have to make an account.
Just press the X.
Like I forget what it's called. Like holding a piece. Yes.
That's. I thought you meant something without rotating.
Oh no. That would actually be impossible.
What game are you guys playing?
I'm playing Tetris.
I'm playing the same game you're playing.
Fuck yeah. These are all the policy games playing. Are you serious? Yeah. With the policy game. It feels like North Broward. That's 10 points. Like everybody. It's like, oh, I want to be cool. Yeah, it's kind of fun.
I don't think I'm gonna eat this. It's like on the wrong.
I'm stopping though. I flow. I'm done flowing. Wait, bro, if you hit the walls, you're out.
Sink or swim, my bro.
If everybody's ready, the voters are just going to be our second contention, Spain return from rebuttal, and the EU block. The first way they tried to respond to comment is by saying that negotiations falls. They dropped the DICOP evidence that David Reed's rebuttal that says negotiations actually increase desire for secession by giving concessions to the independence movement, which is one of the reasons Tier finds, which they also dropped, that negotiations are only going to work short term. There's an empirical example of this. In 2006, Spain gave Catalonia more independence. In 2009, they took the word back. Spain doesn't keep their words. Negotiations are not a long-term solution. The next response is that Spain has learned their lesson. What Jensen tells you is that Spain has promised to reinstate Article 155 when Puigdemont is elected leader. Clearly they haven't learned their lesson. My opponents are only looking short term. They also dropped our buck evidence that says that right now in the movement, radicals are replacing the moderates. And not only does this mean support for independence is growing right now, it means support is becoming more radical, which in turn makes violence more likely. They also dropped they mishandled the entire frozen conflict analysis throughout the round. What Gary tells you is that Spain and Catalonia is a frozen conflict. What that means is that violence in the future has a 100% probability. That also means that Paris right now tells you that violence is over 50% probable. Their only response here is that there's no army. They didn't have an army the last time they went to Spain at first, and even if you still buy that, remember that they can still do guerrilla warfare, and you can still have terrorism. You don't need an army to kill people, and you don't need an army to increase the likelihood of state collapse and decrease the economy. And what our Williams evidence tells you is that any conflict in Catalonia is going to spread to neighboring regions and affect Spain. The next thing I want to say to Spain, their only response here is that every country ages. But what our evidence tells you is that Spain has the worst aging population in the whole world, and that this is going to cause a total collapse that Bosch tells you even immigration can't solve. At this point, it's totally clean and it's a great way to go for us, because what Spangler also tells you is that to avoid total economic collapse, Catalonia needs to get out now. This is the biggest economic mechanism around. The next thing is the EU collapse. Their only response here is that there's no probability. However, what Betancourt tells you is that the probability of collapse is 100%. They say that secessionist movements are going to increase in our world. However, that's not what their evidence says, and Lynch tells you that those secessionist movements cannot possibly succeed anyways. It's physically impossible. What Varoufakis tells you is that the only chance to save the EU from total collapse is by voting affirmative and having Spain recognize Catalonia independence. EU collapse means the collapse of 28 member economies. That's the biggest impact in the round.
So on this idea of aging workforce, right? If you look to like any country in the world, when they have an aging workforce, don't they just implement more policies for their economy to solve it?
Sure.
Especially because it's
And
20
Spangler implicitly frontlines that. What Spangler identifies is that this is not an economic issue, but rather a sociological one. The structural deficits in Spain's population make it literally inevitable. You can call it the card. It will collapse in 20 years.
Even if there's
Okay,
structural,
so-
two issues, right?
Like, well, first of all, two issues that are not brought up until the first. Like,
Yeah,
just to clarify.
your responses to our response, so I mean, your response to your response, like debate, right? So,
Right, except you need defense on the response. But like,
Just go ahead, just go ahead.
that's fine.
anyways, right, like, even if they have an aging population, there's a structural deficit in the population, there's still policies like increasing immigration, changing your tax
Actually,
code to get
I
more money for
specifically
welfare.
read the Bosch card in summary that says that immigration is not going to solve
Why?
for this exact reason. Because they would have to take into account, if they physically can't take in the 1.2 million immigrants they would need to
Why
solve
can't
this
they
problem.
physically not take them in?
They don't have the infrastructure. You can call the
Over
card if you want to.
20
That
years
too
ago,
would
how
lead to
much-
economic
why-
collapse. Like it's a double bind. Either Spain's economy collapses in 20 years because their population
Why
is so
is Spain's
small,
aging
or they
problem?
take it direct, or they take it all the
Yeah, but-
population. That also
Okay,
causes
so
collapse.
why is
It's a great
Spain's
point.
aging problem the worst in the world?
Like
Okay,
literally, there's a lot of
they
old
have
people and
the
a lot
highest,
of young
they
people.
have the highest percentage of old people in the world. It's
I'm
bad.
confused about the analysis. Just call for the card. It's really good. I urge the judges to
Look,
as well.
if you can have as many cards as you want, right? Until we can get like a logical reason why in the next 2 decades Canada can't do anything to be like, oh, our
We're just
economy
gonna like sit there and be like, we'll wait for these old people to die.
I mean, they can try to separate rooms, but we tell you why it's not going to work. Or we don't even tell you, a world-renowned economics professor tells
No,
you
you
why it's
never
not
told
going
us
to
why
work
it's not
versus
gonna work.
your
You just said it's
part
not gonna
analysis.
Bosch literally says that if they double bind, either they take in so many immigrants that it collapses the economy that way, or they don't do it, and the
As
population
long-
ages so fast that there aren't enough young people to support their pension systems, then the economy
Right.
collapses.
So,
We've been on this for
yeah, so let me ask you a question then. So, on your impact about conflict, right? So, what has the Catalan independence movement like explicitly said about conflict?
And they're not going to pursue it.
Yeah.
That's
so
fine.
So what changed?
A lot. The Paul evidence, which you drop indicates the Catalonians in frozen conflict. The
Okay.
evidence that you're reading is indicative of this trend.
So
They
does
go
that
through,
just-
they
so
go,
where-
can I
does that-
explain?
yeah.
They go through these really long-term cycles of peace and conflict. Right now,
Okay.
we're in a cycle of peace.
So
But
they-
insofar as they fought 6 wars for independence,
Yeah.
there's nothing to suggest
So-
it's going to change in the long term.
So, like, when is that war gonna happen?
What do you mean? Like Parrish says that it's like tomorrow, it's more likely than not.
So where are they gonna get the arms from?
First of all, there are 18,000 guns in Catalonia. Second of all, there's guerrilla warfare, which probably outweighs, because that means more widespread than civilians. And third of all, the other 5 wars they fought, they didn't have guns then. There's still less than 1 million people
Well,
involved.
that's the,
Yes, yes.
maybe no one else. The reason why there's not any violence right now in the 21st century is because those guys have such a big incentive to not go to war insofar as the global implications it has for Spain
Yeah.
and the
Once
But
implications.
that's never, that
It also
doesn't really
devastated
stop
the
other
entire
places from going to
society.
war. That's why the face of
Also
Spain
a
is
brand
the
new response
response.
and very fast.
They say negotiations lead to more and more secession, but A, that's just empirically not true. When they have negotiations, secession displays have decreased. And second, that's not true because Catalonia just keep wanting more and more. What they want is more control of their own country in the status quo. If they have what they want and what they want with negotiations, they won't keep pushing for more because they know of the harms that we put out in case for Catalonia and Spain. At that point, negotiations are going to be successful. The evidence from 2016 is completely outdated. Then their only other response to all of our cards is Article 155 is coming in again. But that doesn't respond to the idea that in December of 2017, when Rajoy and Puigdemont called for negotiations, and we tell you that in Catalonia specifically, the new parliament, which they say is so radical, is running on a platform of negotiating with Madrid. At the end of the day, both Rajoy and Catalonia have an incentive to come to the negotiating table, and that's what they're literally saying in the status quo. Just saying Article 55 is coming in is not sufficient to say the cycle goes on and on and on. They say it's a cycle, and that's going to lead to war someday. But if you look to now in the 21st century, each side has such a big incentive not to go in conflict because it's big implications for Spain, and it'll destroy the legitimacy of the Catalan independence movement. That's the evidence read in rebuttal that they've never responded to. At that point, a war is never going to happen, especially now, even it happened in the past in the 1500s. But then, they say this is their only argument they go for, but at the end of the day, understand there's never going to be unilateral secession because the leaders in Catalonia have said we're never going to unilaterally secede. We know it's really bad. At that point, there's no impact to war because there's zero probability of this happening. Let's go to our second tension on Spanish recession. They give two responses. First, they say an aging workforce, but we tell you that every country has some sort of aging workforce. If it's in 20 years they pass policies to solve the problem, like Japan is doing, like Germany did when it's opened its borders to refugees, they never give a warrant as to why any of these cards are true. Don't let them extend it into second final focus. But second, they talk about EU collapse, or Driscoll evidence says that taking a stand against Catalan independence means that they're less likely to experience secession movements in the future. That turns our argument you could call for it. And second, we tell you, they say that they can't concede. They can't secede. At that point, if the secession movements aren't conceding, there's no way EU is going to collapse. On our impact on exports, they drop it. We tell you Spain has no exports. The 34% of the exporting companies and 70% of the exports, the increase in transition costs leads them to a recession according to Wagner. This is uniquely better than the status quo because Spain is crawling out of recession. Even if it's inevitable, it's awful to do it now, and that's why you pull the trigger for the negative.
Going to go EU conflict. Everybody ready? Which side? This should be EU's on their flow, conflicts on our flow, Spain goes on their flow. Yeah. Cool. Pretty good. All right. Benjacour says that the EU's inflexibility and rigidity and resistance to independence movements will cause its inevitable destruction. There's a 100% probability of this. They don't respond to it. They say that secession is going to happen, but they drop Lynch, which says that no other rested region in Europe has the capacity to secede. Intent doesn't matter without capability. At that point, you extend Varoufakis, who says that the only risk of solvency is voting aft. Recognizing Catalan independence gives the EU a, quote, golden opportunity to recharacterize its structures, preventing long-term collapse. This is the biggest impact in the round. Their only offense is to Spanish collapse, but if the EU collapses, not only does Spain collapse, but all other 27 member states do too. That outweighs their pace by a factor of 28. This not handled at all in summary or the final focus. You pull trigger for the aft here. Then on conflict. First, they think negotiations are going to work, but they cold drop the Dykhoff term, which is the negotiations just tantalize the leaders of the secession movement, making conflict and secession more likely. That's cold dropped throughout the round. They also drop Thier, who says that Spain's just going to go back on their word, but at the end of the day, they also drop Paul, who says that this is just indicative of a frozen conflict. Even if we didn't cleanly extend Parrish, who says that war is literally more likely tomorrow than not, they mishandle the frozen conflicts analysis, which says that war is inevitable in the long term. They fought 6 wars for independence, and there's nothing to suggest that that's going to change. If anything, the buck evidence they drop is just indicative of the idea that these wars will just intensify in severity and frequency in the long term. Extend Thier, who says that only a permanent solution solves this perpetual conflict. That's really important because the war is a prerequisite to the economy. If Catalonia goes to war, Williams says that it spills over regionally, triggering their economic harms. Then on Spangler, they also don't respond to this. Spangler literally says that Spain's aging population is growing so fast there physically aren't enough young people to support its population. That's why he finds that the economy is inevitably going to collapse in 20 years. This A, non-uniques all of their offense, B, gives us another link into inevitability, which non-uniques their offense, and C, gives you a risk of solvency scenario. Right now, if you negate, Catalonia goes down with Spain, but affirming gives them a chance to reduce their dependency and persist in the long term. Thus, we affirm.